Helldivers 2 didn't succeed because it has the best graphics. It succeeded because the environment art was built for production. Every environment is designed to be reusable and scalable. That's why it shipped polished and why it holds up under real gameplay pressure. In this video, I'm not reviewing Helldivers 2 as a player. I'm breaking it down as an environment art pipeline. If you want to understand how professional environment art actually works, this is the kind of game you need to study. This will be a postmortem style production breakdown aimed at juniors, aspiring professionals, artists working on their portfolio, people who want to learn industry workflows, not just technical tutorials. By explaining why this game had a great success, young professionals can learn a lot about real productions. So before we dive deeper, of course, the gameplay loop, the tone reminiscent of Starship Troopers, and the overall chaotic co-op experience is what makes the game fun and therefore successful. Let's not forget the price point of $40 in a really bad economy, and Arrowhead Game Studios cut lightning in a bowl. But what this video is about is how the environment art team followed a very well optimized pipeline so that this could be possible. There is a huge gap between learning in school and working for a studio. In school, you learn the tools, art fundamentals, and hopefully some technical knowledge for optimization. That's basically all you can learn because of the time constraint. 1 to 3 years is a short time to learn a complex craft. In a studio, AAA, AA, or even indie, it is expected that the artist knows systems, workflows, and real-life best practices. We could summarize it as art supports gameplay first. In such a game, FPS is more important than fancy stuff. So strict budgets are allowed for meshes count, geometry, shaders, texture memory, especially the number of decals. Is vertex painting possible? Is there another alternative? Therefore, extreme optimization is a necessity, and the team had to make sure to reuse assets as much as possible. So let's look at the work of Massimo Frezzato. And he worked on the Omens of Tyranny, especially on the colonies. So there is basically the whole team, the whole people who collaborated. So that's great. We have, credits for the whole team. So you can look up their portfolios and we can look at some very nice renders of quite large environment, large colonies. And we have something very interesting here, which is a GIF. But before we get there, I outlined this because this is what we really have to understand about the production. So over the span of 4 months, the team produced over 300 assets, modules, and details used to build the colony structures, all varying in size, shape. So these pieces were assembled into buildings, which were then integrated into their prefab system to generate randomized colony sections for each level. So we're talking about a system. And let's just understand the context. This is 4 months, 300, they decided to work this way with, divided it in 300 singular asset modules. And we have a crazy, amazing, interesting gift right here, which seems to be infinite. So it goes from very simple to way more complex, right? More, it really varies in size and shape, as the artist said. And you see purpose also is very different. So you have clean versions, broken versions, you have tons of stuff, right? So I'm letting it roll just so you get an idea. That's an amazing GIF. Thank you very much to the artist. That's so valuable. Young artists should study these things, like looking at renders, right? You can see from one side all the, I mean, everything that's needed for buildings. And then you see here all these, let me just stop it for a second. I mean, this is just amazing. And we have on those renders, we have basically the clean version or the not destroyed version. And here you have some assembled modules. So of course, various modules and their destroyed version next to it. So this is very, very interesting. And we understand a little bit better the reality of such a production, right? So it's not just about how to build assets, it's in what context, the sheer number, the honestly the craziness of such, like the amount of the workload, right? And how to deliver, first of all, how to maintain a level of quality. And the optimization has to be extreme because the game is a multiplayer shooter with tons of VFX, tons of animated stuff at the same time, right? And it's multiplayer, so it adds so much complication to rendering properly stuff on the screen. And the FPS has to be decent so that the players have a smooth experience. So the environment team had to do basically miracles. If you're having a hard time mastering those competitive games, I have a solution for you. Now let me introduce you to the channel's sponsor, SkyCoach. You can get blueprints, materials, weapons, coins, keys, and much, much more for a game such as Arc Raiders, for instance, that will help you to cut through the grinding. There is currently over 120 games from the most popular games, ranging in types from MMORPGs to shooters to sports game. But SkyCoach can take your gameplay to the next level. You can have some of the best players in the game analyze your gameplay, provide feedback, and help you develop winning strategy. SkyCoach has a 4.6 rating on Trustpilot with well over 22,000 reviews. They have served over 150K customers so far, and they offer support 24/7. So you can purchase their services with peace of mind. So try out SkyCoach to bring your gaming experience to the next level. Use the link in my description and my promo code NEXTLEVEL to get 10% off. So let's take a look at the work of Denise Di Giorgis. And we have some real industry talk right here in the destruction. So we have engine limitations here, which by the way, they use Autodesk Stingray, which is something that's not available anymore. I will just say it was probably full of constraints. Then we have the tech debt saturation, which is a topic on its own. I could make a video in the future about that. So the technical debt saturation, basically it refers to the critical point where the accumulated cost of maintaining and working around suboptimal code overwhelms a team ability to basically function properly. So that's a huge topic on its own. Very short time. I think this everybody can understand. And organizational pains given by a post-success company transformation at the time. So basically when, things got crazy, right? Helldivers 2 got crazy successful. It is a live service game. People were having a lot of fun and the company wants that to go on. So what does that mean? Content. We need to add content as soon as possible, as much as possible. And you know the thing with quantity? Well, it hinders quality, first of all. And second of all, everything you add to an existing project, an existing game in this case, there's a risk for breaking. So her contribution was creation and optimization of 350 modules used to create buildings, prioritization, tasking, external dependencies, and risk assessment. So, yeah, you don't learn this kind of things in school. You learn it on the job, and that's the reason why studios will always value devs with production experience over those who don't have it. With short timelines and limited budgets, someone like this becomes very valuable to a studio. So, yeah, there's the credits of the rest of the team. There's a lot of information. So, just from a very small description, there is so much information. It's jam packed with industry insight. So, that's what young artists should be looking for, not just the pretty renders and the stuff that everybody's raving about. That won't get you a job. So you can see many examples of great work. So everything can be destroyed. So that's why basically everything is double the work. There are tons of dependencies because when something breaks, it's not just an asset being swapped for another. There is VFX involved. There is a lot of technical stuff going on. And here is a very valuable piece of information. So this is samples from the modular library, which contains about 350 pieces. So there are different categories: intact, which we can see here, destroyed level 1, so banged up, destroyed level 2, completely, unusable, rubble, which is basically after it's unusable, and dressing, small stuff, decorative stuff. Optimizations, minimal poly count, weighted normals, so basically no baking for most assets. It's a mid poly technique. Trim sheet, UDIM selected materials, floating geometry. You have example of the trim sheet atlas. So this is a massive texture which contains, well, a lot of stuff, right? Reused over and over and over on, well, probably that is the one on 350 assets. So this is how you get around those crazy limitations. So this is a video made by the team to showcase basically all of that in context. So we can appreciate the VFX, the lighting, the post-process. We have a good sense of the final result. Next up, the work of Miles Lambert, who worked on trim sheets and tileable materials. So this is for the ship interior, and the artist is noting that the doors and railing are unique baked props for higher quality because it's more noticeable. Players seeing this from closer as opposed to the floor, the walls in some cases. So a higher budget is spent where it counts. And these renders are from Unreal Engine. So this was more for exploration, I guess, because they are not using Unreal Engine. But this is very nice, and it's really in line with what we see in the game. So you can see those trim sheets, large trim sheets, and you can see a lot of typical sci-fi, amazing looking stuff. I love it. Great trim sheets. So yeah, any games like that will necessitate multiple trim sheets, and then it's applied to hundreds, if not thousands of assets. If you want to learn some of the systems that are used in game studios, I have created a course in which I show everything step by step. There are no time lapse, nothing is done off screen. I take the time to explain what we do and why we do it. I show best practices. And we are creating a small environment from A to Z. I'm showing every single step of how it's done on a professional production. I can answer any questions you might have on multiple platforms. The course has been named bestseller and highest rated consistently on Udemy. So if you are interested, there is a link in the description and there's a discount available with the code provided. Now onto the work of Romain Lemaire, and he worked also on the colonies. And in the description, he says that they had 4 months from the initial brief to the release. So that's not a whole lot. And he's mentioning that they used a method similar to the one shared by Thor Frick on the Ascent. That's going to be the topic of another video. So we have some great renders, very beautiful stuff. Let's spend a little more time on this one because we're going to see some magic that was used by them. So here's a short video by the artist to show some magic tricks. So the shader allowed the setup of 8 materials directly in engine by using a set of noise and surface data, all controlled by a set of parameters. The different materials are applied via UDIM coordinate. So this is how you should approach a large volume of buildings. You will be able to make them look different while not wasting a lot of time. So this is another video by the same artist, which is showing something different. So the color is applied via the world space position and a set of LUT that are tied to those coordinates. So again, this is just work smart. They worked very hard. They had tons of work, but they worked smart. They used tools that allowed them to deliver on time. And this is what professionals do, which aspiring artists who wants to work in a studio have to learn from that. This is what you have to show. Speaking of which, I'm giving away a portfolio checklist that gives many tips and directions on what to include on your portfolio, what not to forget, and basically what matters to hiring teams. So it's completely free. Check it out. The link is in the description. So by the way, there is much more on this board. I will make it available very soon. You have to check it out. Especially there's a GDC talk, very recent from last year, from Romain Lemaire, that goes over a lot of information about material upgrade, optimization, and good practices. It's fascinating. I watched the whole thing. I just put some screenshots here just to give a reference. So the link is in there. Take a look. So in conclusion, if what you have learned so far is how to use the tools, the softwares for modeling, texturing, sculpting, the game engines, etc., and that's what you're showing on your portfolio, it's simply not enough. Let me clarify. It is the bare minimum. Showing your talent, what you can do with the basic tools is necessary, but that's not what studios are actually looking for. So in a way, you can't be mad at them for ghosting you. They don't even have time to tell you you are not in the conversation. They are too busy dealing with artists who know what it takes. The deal is, the industry is a business. Time is money. Even if we're talking about art, I know it's sad, but it's true. Show that you know real workflows. Of course, you are not working on a complete game with assets with dependencies and stuff that breaks and that you need to debug. But show them that at least you have done some research. If you don't have the direct experience, you have talked with people who do, and you understand the basics. This way, they might consider giving you a shot and throwing you into the chaos of a real production. Don't worry, it's also a lot of fun, but there is a risk for any company to hire young artists who are not proven. That's the message for today. Your portfolio should show that you know of these realities. If you're serious about working in the game industry, if you're ready to raise your standards, subscribe. And let's build work that belongs in a studio, not just on an unfinished portfolio. Shout out to the members of the channel, and you are all welcome to join. Additional perks will be added very soon.